Iran says it will continue to strengthen its bilateral relations with a number of countries. America has threatened to impose sanctions against Tehran following its retaliatory attack against Israel. Israel has bombed its consulate in Syria. Now, South Africa and Iran are part of the BRICS bloc. SABC News correspondent Sarah Coast joins us live now from Tel Aviv with the latest update on the conflict in the Middle East. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start here. Has Israel made a decision on its action against Iran? I mean, has there been any way forward following the Israel war cabinet meetings that we've seen taking place since Sunday?
Hello. Well, according to sources extremely close to this war cabinet, Israel has decided on a response. The only thing that they can't agree on right now is when it should happen. Now, this source says its response will be painful and it will be calculated. So certainly what we can expect is a response. We don't know what it will look like right now. But given all of this international support, really, that Israel has garnered over the last few days, what we can potentially expect to see are strikes on military targets, either on Iranian soil or within these proxies around the region. So certainly one thing that Israel won't want to be doing right now is injuring any Iranian civilians. But certainly this will be a pretty tough balancing act for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On one hand, you've got all of these allies like the United States, like Britain, urging restraint, saying that any response really needs to be measured, not to cause a wider escalation in the Middle East. But then, on the other hand, you have these very far right-wing elements in the Netanyahu government. These people do sit on the security cabinet. We're talking here about Itamar Ben-Gvir, about Bezalel Smotrich. They are urging the Prime Minister to go for Iran with everything that Israel has. So certainly a very fine balancing act here for Israel. But one thing we do know is that there certainly will be a response.
And as you rightfully said, of course, Sarah, world leaders have been concerned that this particular, war will then spread out into, the Middle East, causing more friction. These sanctions that the U.S. is mulling about over Tehran, I mean, one would expect that it will at least prevent, Iran's further action, as it said, if Israel does attack. It will then attack even, much more force than what we saw over the weekend.
Well, depending on what these sanctions are and really how far-reaching they are, what this could also do potentially is limit Israel's response. If Israel sees its allies slap these further sanctions on Iran's missile programs, on Iran's drone programs, on the Revolutionary Guards, that type of thing, it could then really bring Israel back potentially from what it was planning on doing and see a more limited response, given these sanctions could already rein Iran in, so to say, and further isolate it from the global community. But certainly one thing that there is general consensus on here in Israel is that there needs to be a response. Iran cannot just go and shoot some 300 ballistic missiles and drones into Israel without letting this go unpunished. So certainly while these sanctions may in fact rein Israel in a little bit in terms of its response, we can certainly expect a response.
And of course, Sarah, there are concerns, that this latest development has taken, away from what is currently happening in Gaza in as far as humanitarian crisis is concerned. Just talk to us a little bit about what is currently happening on the ground in Gaza.
Well, certainly the humanitarian situation on the ground in Gaza remains extremely dire. The latest update we do have on efforts to really try and alleviate this is a number of US warships. They have just arrived in Crete in Greece, and they will be bound for Gaza to try and build this temporary port that the United States announced some weeks ago. Now, it's unclear still as to when the work on this temporary temporary port will begin. But certainly there is a lot of significance here that the United States needs to get in, build this port to try and open up this maritime corridor, because we do need to remember this Israeli strike on those World Central Kitchen workers a number of weeks ago. This then halted that operation, and they were bringing in many tons of aid, vital aid to these people in Gaza. So certainly this latest escalation has really taken the attention away from the suffering of the people in Gaza. But the latest update we do have there is that these ships are now in the region.